Pass this jobs bill. Pass this jobs bill. You should pass it right away. Pass this jobs bill. Pass this bill. Pass this jobs bill. Pass this bill. Pass this jobs bill. You should pass it again.
Mark Steyn in for Rush. His great thing, his great catchphrase is pass this bill now, pass this bill. We have to agree to his demand to pass the bill before we can find out what's in it. There is no bill. He hasn't put anything on paper. That would be asking too much of him. He's a guy, it exists on the teleprompter. It's somewhere there on the teleprompter. By the way, if he'd been at the Constitutional Convention, he'd have been saying, pass this Constitution now! And other founding fathers would have been saying, but wait a minute, you haven't written it yet. There is no Constitution. Pass this bill now. Pass this bill. There is no bill. There's no $500 billion to cover the cost of it. People say that Barack Obama does not learn from experience, and clearly he does. For the first stimulus bill, he took just shy of $1 trillion, tossed it out of the window into the Potomac, and watched it float out to sea. Now for Stimulus 2, son of Stimulus, just when he thought it was safe to go back into the water, he's going to toss a mere $500 billion out of the window into the Potomac and watch it float out to sea. So I think this is the kind of bipartisan spirit that we can all get behind. He could have gone for another full $1 trillion, but instead he decided no, he's going to be fiscally responsible by only tossing into the Potomac a $500 billion. Just to get this figure in perspective, by the way, this is $500 billion for a jobs bill right now. Do you remember the debt ceiling? It was in all the papers. Got to increase the debt ceiling. And in return for agreeing to an increase in the debt ceiling, the negotiators in Washington spend a month negotiating savings of $7 billion. $7 billion in fiscal year 2012.
But this compromise does make a serious down payment on the deficit reduction we need.
Now, if you were in your average advanced Western economic basket case, if you were, in Greece or Iceland or Portugal, $7 billion would be a fair chunk of change. But here, it's equivalent to what the government of the United States borrows every 30 hours. So they spent a month negotiating savings of $7 billion. Now, just to get that in perspective, after spending a month saving $7 billion from fiscal year 2012, Barack Obama gives a speech for 20 minutes and just adds another $500 billion to it.
There should be nothing controversial about this piece of legislation.
So now we're not saving $7 billion. We've added basically an extra $500 billion to the budget. What happened to the $7 billion savings? And he says, not to worry about it. Don't you worry about a thing. Because he's asked the Congressional Super Committee, John Kerry and the gang, to cover the cost of the American Jobs Act by finding an extra $500 billion of savings. They're pledged to cut out of the budget within the next 10 years $1.5 trillion. By the way, that's less than half of what the United States federal budget spends in a single year. So even if they succeed in doing that, we're still doomed. We're still done for. But now they've said to John Kerry and the Super Friends on the Super Congress Super Committee, they've said, but Obama's added another $500 billion, so you've got to find $2 trillion worth of savings. So you don't have to worry about anything, because we'll still get to enjoy the $7 billion of savings in fiscal year 2012, and it won't matter that we've added another $500 billion to the budget.
Everything in this bill will be paid for.
Because in 2021, John Kerry and the Super Friends of the Super Congress Super Committee will announce that they've managed to claw back $500 billion in 2021. This is American national government taken to new heights of absurdity. Pass this bill! Pass this bill now! I demand, I'm calling upon you to pass this bill! Pass this bill before the next time I say pass this bill! Pass this bill or the bill gets it! I mean it this time! Pass this bill! There is no bill, and there is no money to pay for the bill. There's nothing. Sorry, I'm laughing at him. The Washington Post, I am laughing at him, and I regret that, because the Washington Post, Dana Milbank, has said, the president gave one of the most impassioned speeches of his lifetime, and all Republicans did was laugh at him. You should pass this jobs plan right away, said Obama. Senators Bob Corker and Lindsey Graham chuckled. Now, that's okay. That's mildly disrespectful, a chuckle. A titter is okay. A chuckle is okay. But when you get to open guffaws and side-splitting, then you are just totally disrespecting this president. Warren Buffett pays a lower tax rate than his secretary, an outrage he has asked us to fix, Obama went on. I'm sorry, I'm tittering now. I'm more than tittering. I'm chortling, I'm borderline guffawing, so this is totally disrespectful. I'm going to try and get my chortle back down to a titter again. Warren Buffett pays a lower tax rate than his secretary, an outrage he has asked us to fix. Do you know why Warren Buffett pays a lower tax rate than his secretary, by the way? Warren Buffett pays a lower tax rate than his secretary because he asked his highly paid accountants to arrange it that way. He asked them to fix it so he pays less tax than his secretary, and now he's asked Obama to fix the outrage of him paying less tax than his secretary.
It's me again.
Widespread laughter broke out on the GOP side of the aisle. You don't have to say the words. Warren Buffett is a punchline now. This isn't political grandstanding, Obama said. Representative Paul Ryan, Republican of Wisconsin, guffawed, and that's just totally unacceptable. You're allowed to titter at this president. If you really insist, you can have the occasional chortle, but when you are guffawing at this president and his American Jobs Act, you are totally disrespecting him. Quote, we've identified over 500 regulatory reforms which will save billions of dollars, the president claimed. House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, Republican of Virginia, and Whip Kevin McCarthy, Republican of California, giggled. It's getting worse. It's getting worse, folks. They're not just tittering at the president. They're not just chuckling at the president now. They're giggling at him. They're giggling at him.
The result would be the lowest level of annual domestic spending since Dwight Eisenhower was president.
And Milbank says this is more insulting than Joe Wilson saying, you lie, sir, during his previous, whatever it was, State of the Union or whatever it was supposed to be the last time he was doing it. He didn't have the Greek columns, the styrofoam Greek columns. I don't know why he didn't have them, because our economy is trending highly Greek-like. So for once, the styrofoam Greek columns would have been highly appropriate.